everybody. Hi there. I hope you guys are doing very well. I am doing well, except it is way too hot in on the Gulf Coast of Texas. We are literally burning up. So if you are someplace cool and a higher elevation, then thank your good fortune because it is crazy here. So okay, so gonna talk about so I didn't come back and talk about this this whole uh Adam Cox and his uncle and all of that. I didn't do that, and the reason I didn't do that is because it's crazy they are doing a podcast. And so this wasn't something that I could just like study up on really quickly and then jump in and do a live. I wanted to make sure that I watched so far the episodes that are currently available, as well as kind of go through some of the new documents or new information that's come out. Also want to go back through Chad Daybell's initial the preliminary hearing for him. So it just wasn't something that I felt like I could jump on and do in a way that, would be worthwhile, I guess. So I kind of, and I went down a rabbit hole with Bryan Kohberger case. So that is where I'm at right now. DB, you're here live. Yay. Good. Hey, Diane, welcome. Hey, Skitty Nona, welcome. Hey, PM Frenchman. Yeah, so that's kind of what I want to do, but I'm not, trust me, I'm not leaving this whole Adam. I'm a little, I have a few, he has said some things that make me very nervous. Or not nervous, but uncomfortable. That's better to say, uncomfortable. And I'm noticing that why is my video running? It should not be running. Oh no, they're doing the story on the fireworks, and that's after the story that I want. So hold on, let me see if I can get it back to where it's supposed to start. Y'all have no idea what I'm talking about. I have a video set up, an interview set up to play, and the silly thing started playing. And so now it's not, okay, that's where I want. Don't move. Pause. Okay, we're back on track. Okay. So yes, Adam Cox, Lori Vallow's brother, made a couple of comments that I thought, oh, what is this? And I think I saw Dr. John also kind of went, what? So there's some peculiar, something uncomfortable, but we'll talk about that, later. Today, we're going to talk about Kohberger. Hi, Rochelle Black. How are you? Welcome. Good to see you. So as I said, any of you guys that are in a higher elevation or you're just living someplace that the sun doesn't shine, whew, lucky you, because this has been bad. The air conditioners are working overtime and losing the battle. So my office is downstairs. It's kind of like a basement dark hole. I may just live down here for the next 3 months while I'm waiting for everything to cool down. So, all right. So, I think I will start. I'm going to start with my video. Okay. Here's what I want to start with. Now, this is, there you go. Take me off the screen, please. This is the previous Pullman police chief. And the reason that I wanted to listen to this is you notice the date. November 12th, correct? So this was the week. This was the week of the murders, basically. So it's all it's quite new. People don't really know much. And one of the big complaints from the people that think that this has been a bad investigation, for people that feel this has been a bad investigation and that perhaps Kohberger has been set up, or they simply have the wrong guy, that not that they believe that he is guilty and then they fabricated evidence. Now, some people do think that they think that the DNA that was sent to the Texas lab, they're suspect about that. They don't think it was handled properly. So there's several different groups in this. We don't trust that Bryan Kohberger is the defendant or the proper defendant. There are groups that say he's completely innocent and dirty cops set him up. There are people that say, no, he's probably the guy that did it, but they had to fabricate the evidence against him. So there's multiple people, but here's the deal. I think whenever you get into these situations where people just don't, everybody's got a different idea and nobody believes that the cops got it right. These are usually situations where there's problems that people are identifying and it robs you of confidence. If you think about it, no one thought Lori Vallow was innocent. No one. It was so clear that she was in on this, and at the very least that she knew about it. Many people thought she directed what happened to the kids, and then some people say no, she was there when the dirty deed was done. And we don't have that with Kohberger. People are all just arguing with one another, and so what I wanted to do, because a lot of this disagreement is based on people feeling like the cops were not honest about what they did, or that they failed to look at other people because they can't identify how it was they even targeted Kohberger in the first place. And, it is uncomfortable. I do think he's the one. Don't get me wrong. I believe he's the guy. But I understand where their complaints are coming from. So I thought it might be interesting to go back and listen to this interview, or it's really not the full interview. It's a statement, but to go back and listen to it, because this was in the initial week of the investigation. And I just wanted to kind of see where's their head at? Like, what were they thinking and how were they behaving? So let's see what this guy has to say. Let me make sure you guys can see it. And you do seem to be able to see it. All right, here we go.
Castings. For simple shapes, a complete solid pattern may be used. A mold box is filled with special molding sand that is...
Students and families still have a lot of questions about the murders, and some have criticized Moscow police for not sharing more information sooner. Graham 2's Kyle Simchuk spoke with the former Pullman Police Chief Gary Jenkins, who explained why law enforcement is taking a careful approach to this investigation. Kyle?
Well, he told me it's a balancing act, especially since this murder suspect hasn't been arrested or even identified. Chief Jenkins says releasing too much information could jeopardize the investigation altogether. People across the country want to know what happened inside this home and why. For those living in Moscow, there's still a lot of fear and uncertainty. And how could there not be? 4 young college students were stabbed to death, and their killer still hasn't been caught. Ever since the yellow crime tape went up, the Moscow Police Department has faced scrutiny for not providing as much information about the case as some would like to know.
There's some things that only the people that were at that scene would know. And so you definitely don't want to release that information to the public.
Gary Jenkins is the former chief of Pullman Police and now serves in that role for the WSU Police Department. He says sharing details is a balancing act, keeping people safe and informed without compromising the investigation.
Just trying to make sure that when detectives go out and interview people, it's based on what they know, not what they've heard on the news.
The University of Idaho told students this.
Okay. So that's a little strange, right? Why would I don't know why that bothered me a little bit. I'm not losing sleep over it, but I thought, okay, if I'm really looking hard for something odd, why would he say making sure when officers go out to question someone that they're questioning based on what they know and not what they heard? What? Now, there are people that have said that this has been a process of inductive reasoning, that there is a protected witness, an unknown witness, and that person told them who did it, and the cops have worked backwards from the specific to the more general, what you would get in the beginning of the investigation, general and broad, narrowing down to the person, that they had someone tell them who did it. And so they started at the person that over here, they started at the detail, and now they've had to build out into this broad general. And that is, I believe, where you get so many people questioning, hey, buddy, how did you even get to Bryan Kohberger in the first place? Because we're not supposed to be setting up citizens. Not to mention that sometimes that does happen, like we recently learned, in the federal government. But if if we really want to be a law and order society, the way that it is laid out legally, you're not supposed to do that. So I thought that was a curious comment to make. There's almost like a consciousness of incoming accusations. It's like, why would you say that? That was a very unusual thing to comment on about something that's usually addressed the very first class in law enforcement academy. But why would you say that in an interview unless you had some foresight, some existing knowledge that it was possible that you were going to get those accusations sometime in the future? So that was number one. I think that's why that comment struck me as a little bit odd. But again, I'm not losing sleep over it.
This week, they could go home early for Thanksgiving break if they didn't feel safe around campus, and many already have. Jenkins says that could pose a challenge for detectives trying to interview witnesses. It was for him during the hazing death of Sam Martinez, which also occurred right before Thanksgiving break in 2019.
Most of the witnesses left town, and that's the type of investigation you need to have a one-on-one in-person interview. And so it does definitely complicate that investigation.
Jenkins says the answers all of us want could take time.
They're trying to juggle a lot of balls in the air right now, particularly with 4 victims. It's going to be a very complex crime scene. It's going to be a complex investigation.
That was Kyle Simchuk reporting.
So there was.
That's right. You're e-signing.
Sorry about that, y'all. I know that was loud. So there's not a lot of information, but the information that he does comment on, it's it's a little bit weird. What do you guys think? Do y'all think that was a strange thing for him to say? He's getting this interview. It's just within days of the murder of these 4 young people. And he says, oh, well, we want to be certain that when our guys go out to question witnesses, that they're going to be asking questions based on what they know, i.e., collected evidence, not what they've heard from someone. If you think that is a strange comment, can you put a 1? If you think I'm having a whole confirmation bias problem, that when you look for something odd and unusual statement, you generally find it, put a 2. So what do you think? Do you think that was weird? Or do you think I'm just a victim of my own confirmation bias? Welcome, AP. Hey, Big Ups. How are you? Coffee and Conversation. Came up with an alternate theory. Whoops, I lost. Hi there, not there yet. You're here, though, right now, in here and now. Okay, Coffee and Conversation says, came up with an alternate theory. BK was the getaway driver. He met the killer through his survey and thought this would be good research to see the killer before and after, not likely, but possible. Evidence could fit that alternate theory. He was having doubts and tried reaching out to the girls to warn them, but they did not respond. A lot of people thought Jodi Arias was innocent. Really? What I remember, because the Jodi Arias case was one of those that, this was before I had my channel, but it was one of those that I got so engrossed in that I think it probably the one case that I know the most about it, in terms of minute details and whatnot. And what I remember about Jodi Arias is that when the friends went over to Travis's house after the Mexico trip, they returned home from the Mexico trip. When they went over to his house, now his roommate stayed in the house during this period of time, which seemed bizarre because you're saying, what about the odor? Well, what about the odor in the Idaho 4 house? Why didn't Dylan and Bethany wake up and go, oh, this is weird. This is a strange smell. We don't know, but we also know that in the Jodi Arias case, Travis Alexander, the man that she murdered like 5 different times, the roommate was living there through the whole week while his body was in the bedroom, and there was a lot of blood. The carpet in the bedroom was blood soaked, but she had somehow gotten him back into the shower and had basically kind of washed the blood off. So perhaps that's why the smell wasn't so bad. But I don't know how you would have stopped the blood in the bedroom from smelling. But the guy said he never smelled anything. So, so when his friends returned from the trip and they went to his house to say, dude, where you at? What's wrong? The friend went up, came back, said, oh my God, call the cops. Travis is dead. Right. And so the girl is outside, one of his friends, she's outside. She calls the police. They're all of his friends, the 911 call, they're all saying, I think you better talk to Jodi Arias. I think this is Jodi Arias. Jodi Arias, she has been stalking him. She comes into his house when he's gone. You got to look at Jodi Arias. So no, I don't think there was anybody that thought Jodi Arias was innocent. Unless maybe if she had some friends, but I don't even think she had any friends. That's a terrible thing to say, but anyway. Okay, so Coffee and Conversation thinks that I might be a victim of my confirmation bias, and I'm certainly willing to accept that. Martin Smallwood, welcome. Martin thinks I'm a victim of my confirmation bias as well. Steve Joan Kerwin, Joan Kerwin, welcome. Glad to have you. Jeremy, welcome. Jeremy says, in fact, I am not a victim of my own thoughts. unless they were referring to tips called in by the public. I take the information he's saying differently. Okay, true crime. Hold on. Curator's got a different take. I take the information he's saying differently. I think he's talking about the witnesses talking about what they know and not what they have heard. Aha. You could be right. Maybe I heard that incorrectly. Yes. Very good point. Sometimes you're afraid to find out what you fear the most. Absolutely true. That's right. What? An affair? No, I don't see any evidence of an affair. There's a woman in your bed. How's that for evidence? Oh, no, she just sprained her ankle, needed some medical care. All right. That's how I took it, that he's talking about witnesses. Okay. Yeah, I think you guys are right about that. I think you're right. I got to restart it, though. We're going to listen to that again, because I think y'all are right. All right, let me reshare. All right, let's see. Let's listen closely. Okay, for those of you that don't know, my name is Karen in real life. I'm not called Jules by people that know me, but I started to say, Karen, listen with your ears, not your brain. Okay, so let's see what.
That's right. You're e-signing.
I don't know.
If y'all can hear that, put a 1. Y'all can hear that? I'm hoping and praying that they took all the plumbing. Okay, let's see what they said. I got to listen properly.
To do with this feeling. Yeah, you do.
All hands meeting! Listen up! You've been drowning in paperwork.
Students and families still have a lot of questions about the murders, and some have criticized Moscow police for not sharing more information sooner. Graham 2's Kyle Simchuk spoke with the former Pullman Police Chief Gary Jenkins, who explained why law enforcement is in a careful approach to this investigation. Kyle?
When he told me it's a balancing act, especially since this murder suspect hasn't been arrested or even identified. Chief Jenkins says releasing too much information could jeopardize the investigation altogether. People across the country want to know what happened inside this home and why. For those living in Moscow, there's still a lot of fear and uncertainty. And how could there not be? 4 young college students were stabbed to death, and their killer still hasn't been caught. Ever since the yellow crime tape went up, the Moscow Police Department has faced scrutiny for not providing as much information about the case as some would like to know.
You know, there's some things that only the people that were at that scene would know. And so you definitely don't want to release that information to the public.
Gary Jenkins is the former chief of Pullman Police and now serves in that role for the WSU Police Department.
I want to say something. He says there are some things about that crime scene that only the killer would know. Correct? Well, we know that Papa Rogers described the crime scene he described what happened with Kaylee and Madison. So he described something really specific in Madison's bedroom that there's no way anybody would just guess off the top of their head, right? And it seems to me that that was sort of like the beginning of, oh my God, we know who this is, the killer. I think that's an interesting comment that he makes. And this question that people are asking, how did you get to Bryan Kohberger? How did you decide that he's the one that did it? Well, the FBI has all but said that they believe that Bryan Kohberger is Papa Roger. And if Papa Rogers describes exactly the condition of Kaylee's body and and the physical positioning of Madison and Kaylee, then don't they have their man at that point? Don't they look and they go, oh, look, here's the guy, because he knows what the bedroom looked like. And now what they have to do is they have to launch a digital investigation to try to hunt down Papa Rogers and find out the connection with Papa Rogers. Correct?
Department. He says sharing details is a balancing act, keeping people safe and informed without compromising the investigation.
Just trying to make sure that when detectives go out and interview people, it's based on what they know, not what they've heard on the news.
The University of Idaho told students this week they could go home early for Thanksgiving break if they didn't feel safe around campus. And many already...
I think y'all are right. I think my brain is not hearing that right. I think he did mean that when they questioned witnesses, that what the witnesses say is because they actually saw something and not because they heard it from, gossipy or whatever, or from the news. So thank y'all for that, because I think you're right about that. I think I was hearing it wrong. I want to stop here now, right here on this image, and I want to draw attention to this building up here. All right, so this building is 500 Queens Drive, correct? It is 500 Queens Drive. And in the affidavit, it's the brick building with the yellow and purple. You can't see any purple in this picture, but the poles are purple and the yellow is around the woodwork. That in the affidavit, it does say that vehicle number 1, the Hyundai Elantra, that vehicle number 1 went up to 500 Queen and turned around. And they give a unit number, an apartment number. And what is my next question? My next question is, did they talk to the people in apartment number what? 52, correct? Now, there are places on the internet, if you look at some of the databases for realtors selling houses and whatnot, that they will identify like who lives on the street, who are the different people that live in this area or own this building and that kind of thing. And I thought it was very interesting because apartment number 52 at the time of the murders is owned by, or the lease was in the name or partially in the name of an Asian person. And the reason that I bring that out, I'm not being xenophobic, but that there were witnesses that said to news crews that they would see Bryan Kohberger with a Asian female who appeared to be his age, and she would get out of the car. He would like drive her around or whatever, and they would see her get out of the car. So then if you follow that just a little bit, putting 2 and 2 together, he had 2 other suite mates in his office at WSU. So there were 3 PhD students in this WSU office suite, and one of them is an Asian woman. Very, very attractive, very beautiful, woman, obviously brilliant. So is that what we're seeing? And I was, is that the connection? What is she the one? The woman that he's working with, is it possible that she may have been living in this apartment? Now, these apartments would be about 10 or 11 miles from WSU, where she would be a PhD student. But it wouldn't be unusual for her to, let's say, have graduated from Idaho and then applied for the PhD program and then just said, well, it's only 10 miles. I don't need to move. Right. So there's a lot of people that graduate, they get a master's degree or whatever, and then they get accepted into a PhD program, same school or, you know, an in-state school nearby or whatever. So maybe I'm going to tell you guys this. I think he knows someone there in that what do you want to call that off it, that area? There's two roads that go in, King and Queen, and there's only one outlet, correct? So it's not a circle, or it's just it's two drive with is it three drives? Linda Avenue is no, because Linda Avenue is a different access. So you got King and Queen, but you got tons of apartments and a few houses around, and only one area of egress, and not optimal for getting away with a crime. It just it's very odd. But I do keep thinking, what if he had a friend there? Then that would account for why he would have been there so many times. Was it 12 times the affidavit said? So I did think this was really interesting when it said they turned around in front of unit 52. You look at 52, it's a woman, a 28-year-old Asian woman, and his coworker that he shares an office with is also a 28-year-old Asian lady. All right. I don't think I have time for anything like that. Let's see what you guys are talking about. It's weird that there doesn't seem to be a sexual component for this crime. Usually crimes like this do have the component, but nothing has been released. Well, I have a theory about that, Coffee and Conversation. Let me see. Hey, George Line. Welcome. Good to see you. I like your name too, Georgia Line. Could the knife sheath have belonged to Kaylee or Maddie for protection? Adam could be the protected witness. No, he ordered several of these knives. He didn't just order one. There's a lot of people saying, oh, you know, he had one and they found it. They actually retrieved the knife in Pennsylvania. But he actually ordered several of these knives. Amazon had receipts for several. So, hey, Tennessee. How are you? This is off base. I like things that are off base. But could you at some point speak more on BK being a primary psychopath? Absolutely. Yep, sure will. Okay, I think I caught up with that conversation. Okay. So, Hybrid Pisces, welcome. I've wondered that too, Jules. Whoops. Thank you, Christina. Thank you for being here.
Students and families still have a lot of questions about the murders, and some have criticized.
We already listened to that. My goodness, that made me jump out of my skin. Scared me to death. All right, sorry about that. Okay, so now I don't know what I did with my glasses. Where am I going? Oh, there. Sorry. I'm old. She's old. Give her a break. All right. So here's a problem. We're going to leave Kohberger behind for a few minutes, okay? Still really looking at this timeline. Sleuthy goosey, not sleuthy. Sleuthy goosey did. She has created an amazing timeline. That's all I got to say. So if you have not listened to Sleuthy Goosey, please, one of the mods, if y'all will put the link up to her channel. I don't think she's talking much about Kohberger right now. She said she wanted to wait for the trial. But if you haven't watched her or seen any of this, you know, she's very analytical and fact-based. So if you're one of these people that you get upset when people question that perhaps it was Kohberger, you're probably not going to feel comfortable listening. But she does back up what she says with all of this hard, fast data. And so if you're into this case, you really need to hear what she has to say, because she's done a great job. So her timeline, again, today we're really focusing on the week of the murders. And so that was Gary Jenkins, the prior chief of police for Moscow, who has since now gone to WSU and managing their police force. And so the first thing I heard, was him saying, well, we don't want people to think that we thought we heard something and then we pinned it all on that person. Now, y'all have corrected me, and I appreciate that. The next thing I want to look at for that first week is this timeline. Okay, there's a problem here. And I don't know, I hadn't heard anybody talk about it, so not sure if it's out there yet. If it is, I apologize, for being redundant, but I hadn't heard it. So let's see where we end up with this. So we've got, obviously, 11/11, Kaylee goes to Moscow, has a great time at the Pi Phi formal, and she's actually Dylan Mortensen's +1. Okay, so she goes with Dylan, not in a romantic fashion. People, I saw people trying to say that. No, Kaylee was graduating and leaving, and you commonly will see that among the group, the Greek kids. So Kaylee goes as Dylan's number one or +1, her partner, and they go and they have a wonderful, wonderful time. And she actually calls her mom the next afternoon around 2:30 to tell her mom what a great time they all had, at the Pi Phi formal. So I want to draw attention to this. We've got, so it's now that evening. Kaylee has made a pose. She's taken a picture of all the roommates together. She says, I'm one lucky girl to be surrounded by these people every day. I think she's probably feeling a little bit bittersweet. She knows she's going to be leaving and going to work for a company in Austin, Texas. And I've gone down, that's what I went down the rabbit hole in last night. So there'll be something coming on that. But so she's aware of being with these people, and they've had their day together. The football game went on that afternoon, and then the last football game was at 4 p.m. that afternoon, the night that they were murdered. 4 p.m. that afternoon. Ethan Chapin sends a Venmo to Jack K and just says thank you. And then Bethany Funk sees Ethan Chapin and Xana Kernodle at the Sigma Chi house from 9 p.m. to 1:45 a.m. And then everybody is supposedly coming in around 1:49 to 2 a.m., right? So Bethany says, no, I saw them between 9 and 1:45. There were people that said, yeah, we saw Xana and Ethan here between 8 and 9, something like that. But we didn't see them after that. But now Bethany has stepped up and said, oh, I saw them. They were there from 9 to 1:45. So essentially what you're being told is that they're at the Sigma Chi house, and then they walk home and they're at home about the same time that Maddie and Kaylee arrive home. But then we got Dylan and Bethany arriving home at 1 a.m. So how is it that Bethany is saying, no, they were at the party till 1:45 if she is already back at the house at 1 a.m.? So something's wrong there, right? The one person that is saying that they were at this party from 9 to 1:45 couldn't possibly have known that, because she herself is back at the house at 1 a.m. and at midnight. And this is really important. At midnight, Xana is talking to her dad, Jeffrey, who says, me and Ethan are just hanging out at the house. We're just home hanging out, watching TV, whatever. Hanging around the house at home by ourselves. So I'm not going to make any Bethany and Dylan arrive home at about 1 a.m. and then she says that Ethan and Kernodle arrive at 1:45. But why did she say they were at the party to 1:45? And why would Xana lie to her dad and say, I'm just at home hanging out with my boyfriend? Not comfortable. Not comfortable at all. And so you have at 2 a.m., both Dylan and Bethany made statements during interviews that indicated that all of the occupants of the King Road home were at home at that time by 2 a.m. So it bothers me. There's a little bit about this that bothers me. It bothers me that the two survivors are also the witnesses for the timeline. They're the witnesses for the timeline. However, Bethany apparently didn't hear anything. She didn't know anything happening after 2 a.m. Not even the DoorDash, because you were actually technically the closest one to the DoorDash delivery, right? She didn't hear anything. And then Dylan tells you that she sees a man clad in black, wearing a black mask and bushy eyebrows, and that she is in the frozen phase of shock. But you're going to believe her timeline that she says at 4 a.m. this happened? Why would you do that? If she is so drunk that she's able to fall asleep and not wake up until later in the morning, then why would you ever believe that she was aware what time it was? Now, I do think this. Don't get me wrong. I do think that she could be that drunk that she would fall asleep and not wake up until later in the day. I do think that could happen. I don't think that her ability to judge time or to even put things in order, like in her mind, like, well, first I heard crying, and then I heard I'm here to help you, and then I heard the dog barking. I don't think if she was drunk enough to be able to pass out after having been terrified by seeing this stranger in her house, I think that it's okay to sort of believe the things that she remembers, but I would caution the police not to put any kind of weight into time frames, timelines, or even order of occurrence. I don't think her brain would have properly encoded it if she was that intoxicated, that she was able to be terrified and then fall asleep and sleep for hours. They could actually call a neurologist to testify on that point. So I'm not saying that what Dylan remembers is wrong. I'm just saying I don't think it's wise to believe her timeline or to even put a lot of credibility into what happened first and then next and then next, right? Okay. Okay. I think he came through the window on the second floor, and that's why the screen was off. Well, if you go back, big ups, if you go back and you look at the police responding, the body cam, police responding to the noise complaints, even the one noise complaint where there wasn't a noise complaint, it was just a courtesy call by the police. If you go back and you look at their body cam footage, you will notice that early on in September, the screen was already off, and the cinder block was already under the window. Hold on a minute. Let me see if I can pull this up. Hold on. Where is... would have been... Okay, Bryan Kohberger, first day of classes was 8:23. And listen, he was sitting somewhere in that neighborhood making use of the King Road resident cellular services the night before classes would be starting. So he's not hanging out, going to a meet and greet with all the other PhD students. He's sitting alone in a car stalking? Now that would have been one of the biggest party nights, which would have been August the 22nd, would have been one of the biggest party nights of the year. And that is the start of the fall semester. You would have had all those Greek kids. They would have been out en masse. And Kohberger, his phone is connected from 10:34 to 11:35, 1 hour. Almost for nearly 1 hour to the minute, people. Was this on purpose? Is he planting evidence? Is he playing mind games with the cops? Or was it just silly? Did he just screw up? No, but I think that's really hard to ignore, right? It's really hard to ignore. Almost to the minute he was using their cellular service. All right, so where do they move in? Hold on. Okay, so Kaylee starts her job on June the 1st, 2022. It's Austin. It's actually not based out of Austin, but it's all over the United States. It's a network company. It's called Extreme Network, and I'm going to be talking about that. She starts her job June the 1st, and then she doesn't move into the King Road residence until 4 days later. So she moves in on 6/5. Now, Madison's already living there, but she moves in on 6/5. We know that we don't technically know when Bryan Kohberger moved to Washington. But we do know that on 8/16, which was 9 days. Sorry, I can't see very well. Okay. The girls move in. Kaylee moves in on June the 5th. And then Kohberger moves in sometime between June the 5th and August the 15th. And we get the first complaint for noise on August the 16th. Very unusual. So she's there for more than 2 months before the complaints for noise begin to come in, but they coincide with Kohberger's arrival in the area. And then they've got on 8/16 complaint for noise. And then you've got 9-1 complaint for noise, 9-2 complaint for noise. There was also a complaint of noise for Jack DeCour's house, and they weren't making any noise. And so the cops are now wandering around King and Queen Street trying to figure out, well, where did this so-called noise complaint come from? And the cop says, oh, I saw a big speaker out there on the patio of the girl's house. Let's go up there and harass them a little bit. So where are all these noise complaints coming from? Because we later, and I played this video for you guys, another body cam, where there's a cop talking to Xana, and he says, I've never been called to this house before. This is the first time I've ever been called to this house. And you're like, but wait a minute. When you look at it on a piece of paper, you got Kohberger moves to the area, and then you've got noise complaint. And if you count the one for Jack DeCour's house, there's another one, noise complaint. When previously they had not received any of these complaints to the police. So who's calling and complaining? Who's calling and complaining? Is it Kohberger? Is he doing this to watch and see how the cops respond? What the protocol looks like as they respond? Is this an opportunity that he is creating in order to learn? All right. Then the other thing that's, let's see. He pays his ticket. He applies for, I don't want to talk about that. Kohberger has a couple of interactions with cops during this period of learning. And then finally, Kaylee buys her Range Rover on November the 11th, and she goes to Moscow. And then the next day is when the murders happen. So I find the information about Bethany and Dylan to be interesting. Hey, Unravel, welcome. Good to see you. Wait, what? Hi there. Good to see you. So there have been a lot of people that have questioned about, is this a sexual stalker type situation? If he is the one who's calling in these noise complaints so that he can observe and he can watch how the cops respond. We also know during this period of time that he has applied to get an internship there with the police. We know that Kaylee is started working June the 1st for a company who does internet safety for security systems that have access to, video and audio and whatnot. So it's curious, right? It's a very interesting thought that somehow maybe that would be how he would know who Kaylee was, or Madison, or the house there on King Road. So I don't have any way to follow up with that specifically, but I do think that the unit number 52, that has some interesting possibilities in terms of being connected to the woman that he is sharing a PhD program with. And we have witnesses that have said they've seen an Asian woman in the car with him more than once. It was a usual sighting. So that can be followed up on, and I'm trying to look at that to see if there's anything there. But the internet's a big place, so. I think he was one of those creepers who slinks around the edges, blending in. He wouldn't blend in very well because he's a bizarre looking guy. And I kind of got amused. Another creator who is a bit, she's unique. How's that? She's very unique, and she's got a big personality and whatnot. And she's sort of taunting Nancy Grace, and she said, "Ooh, come on, Nancy." I don't remember exactly the way she said it, but it was along the flavor of, "Oh, come on, Nancy. You know Bryan is a hottie." I think she said hot as beans. Now, I don't know what hot as beans means, but that's what she said. "Come on, Nancy. You know Bryan Kohberger is hot as beans. And you know all the women want him." And I'm going, "No, you are so wrong about that. He's the kind of guy that if he came up to bag my groceries, I would be like, no, I got this. Thank you for offering, but I got this. Just look, they need help over there. I'm good. Just a couple of apples. I'm real good. I got this." I wouldn't even really want him helping me with my groceries because he's one of those, gives me a bad feeling, looks creepy, So Sarah the Irish, top of the morning to you, Sarah. How are you? That was a terrible imitation, wasn't it? He would blend in at a Halloween party. You would be right, Martin. Absolutely. Yeah. I had my psychiatrist stalking me. What? Why was your okay, that was probably an inappropriate question. What would make a psychiatrist stalk you? In fact, I think that's probably against your psychiatrist's code of ethics, would be my bet. He does not appear hot. No, he appears terrifying. The kind of guy whose sister would think, "Oh, maybe Bryan is the killer." That's what he looks like to me. Agreed, Diane. Yes, agreed. Hilarious. Welcome. His eyes are the eyes of primary psychopath. The air conditioner's running, but nobody's home kind of thing. Women know. She said she fell in love with me and knew everything about me already. Did you sue her? Please tell me you sued her, because that is actually the number one reason that healthcare providers lose their licenses, because they have sex with their clients. You probably need to turn that in. That's not okay. It's very creepy. Sheila, welcome. I'm having a great Sunday. In fact, I will tell you this. My Sunday is so great that I thought it was Saturday. That's a good day, isn't it? Don't you know Ann Taylor has a hard time sitting next to him? If I were Ann Taylor, I'd be worried, because I do think that he has an archetype. I think that there's enough reason to believe that he kind of likes this whole blonde, long hair, blonde haired thing. And yeah, I wouldn't be comfortable sitting next to him. Not a bit. I also have a little bit of trouble with the way that they brought Ann Taylor on board. I thought that was curious. All right, let me remind myself if there was anything else. I don't think I brought my notes with me. So, where is Xana's bedroom? Hold on. Okay, here's where I want to start right here. Okay. Try to make this make more sense. Okay, so at 3:29 The car makes 3 passes by cameras, but we're not told where the cameras are or anything, just that there were 3 passes by this car within that protected area with only 1 path of entering or leaving. I find it interesting that the arrest affidavit says, and Ethan had a lot redacted. And they describe the bedrooms. I'm trying to get to. He says there's only a few. Where is it? In the affidavit, they describe, let me just read this paragraph to you. It's directly from the affidavit. So it says, a review of footage from multiple videos obtained from the King Road neighborhood showed multiple sightings of suspect vehicle number 1 starting at 3:29 and ending at 4:20. But there's a critical period there. It's seen between 3:29 and 4:04. And then we don't see that car again from 4:04. You don't see it then until 4:20 as it's leaving. It's leaving at like a high rate of speed. So where did it go from 4:04 to 4:20? If it's in that little tiny area, where was it? The sighting shows suspect vehicle number 1 makes an initial 3 passes by the King Road house and then leaves via Valenta Drive. The guy says, based off my experience as a patrol officer, this is a residential neighborhood with very limited number of vehicles that travel in the area during the early morning hours. Upon review of the video, there are only a few cars that enter and exit during this critical time frame. I'm assuming between 3:29 and 4:20, right? Again, why would somebody pick this location if they're just gonna commit a random crime? Why would they pick a place like that where they're going to actually stand out? And more important, don't forget, this is a ridiculous car. The maneuvers that it's making in these early morning hours are screaming, look at me, look at me, look at me. Don't overlook me. I'm here at this time of morning, blah, blah, blah. Or it's just someone who's there going, well, I'm supposed to pick my friend up, but I don't see him. Where is he? He said he was here. He said he was here with some girl, but now I'm trying to pick him up and I don't see him. Where did he go? And that he's just sort of driving around the neighborhood trying to figure out where the buddy is. And then I think, and I said this in my video day before yesterday, I think at 4:17, when we hear the recording, the audio recorded, the security camera recorded some audio that was, I wrote it down exactly, whispers, maybe a whimper and a thud. And then also the security camera picks up a dog barking. And I said, that was totally somebody getting picked up. And that's the sound of a car door closing. The thud is the sound of a car door closing. I thought about that. I thought, how, if this security camera is picking up sounds of an assault in the King Road house, how loud does it have to be? I mean, basically somebody has to be thrown across the room and that person's probably going to have broken bones if that's reality. But if it's this white car and they finally find the person that they're trying to pick up and they're like, where the hell have you been? Just be quiet. Come on, let's go. And jump in the car, slam the door, and then off you drive away. That's between 4:17 And when the last camera picks you up at 4:20, so the timeline works, and that security camera outside is going to be far more likely to pick up a sound of something happening on the street than something going through insulated walls in another house. It's just very difficult for me to believe that. I mean, you can hear dogs barking inside houses, but when have you guys ever heard people whimpering or crying when they're inside a house and you're walking around? Maybe you're taking an afternoon stroll in the evening. You don't hear people whimpering and whispering. Now, you can hear people if they are fighting. If you hear me and Piddle and Bill fighting, you're going to be able to hear us outside, right? So, no, I'm just kidding. It's a joke. But you get my point. You can hear people yelling, but why would you hear somebody whispering or whimpering? That just isn't possible, in my opinion. But I do think that it is consistent, this whole car issue. I do think that it is consistent with with someone looking to pick someone up, and then they finally find them, and there's a brief kind of greeting, and then you get in the car and you slam the door, and then you're out of here. You're gone, right? All right. We also know the dog barking. I want to get this right. All right. So according to the affidavit, Dylan, and I'm intentionally ignoring because I know a little bit about memory and process memory and semantic memory and how the brain works and how the brain can be disrupted by different types of substances. If she had been on amphetamine, I would have been like, oh no, she knew what time. She knew when things happen. She can tell you what happened first, second, third, but not if she's taking something that would allow her to get terrified and then fall asleep. No, she doesn't know what time it is, I promise. But she would remember, maybe she would remember seeing the guy, hearing, either Kaylee or Xana say, someone's here, or hearing some bumping, running, talking upstairs that would make her think, oh my God, Kaylee's playing with that damn dog again. Be quiet, I'm trying to sleep. Okay, that could have definitely have happened. But I don't think she really would have been aware of the time or what happened first, second, or third. Now then, and that's giving her that is me giving her the benefit of the doubt that she did in fact fall back asleep and stay asleep until around 11 o'clock. If she didn't go to sleep if she was really, really intoxicated, she didn't go to sleep till 2 or 3 in the morning, or somebody dropped her off at the house at 9 a.m., then maybe she does fall asleep and stay asleep until 11. So I'm giving her the benefit of the doubt, but you can't have one without the other. And the reality is, if she was that drunk that she got terrified and then was able to go to sleep for hours, she was taking something, or she was really drunk. One or the other. She was taking something with sedative-like effects. And so I'm going to disregard her comments about the time frame and what happened first, second, third, but I can accept what she said happened, right? Now then, talking about the outside camera picking up the dog barking, the whispering, the thud, which I think was the door closing, and then somewhere you can hear a dog barking. We're going to assume that was Murphy, right? So Dylan says, and Dylan is Bethany and Dylan. Bethany to me is a bigger problem than Dylan, because Dylan's behaviors can be explained away with alcohol, partying. Bethany's got a bigger problem, in my opinion. And if I was part of the police force, I would be asking to pin her down a little bit more, because we do know there's no reason that dad would have lied about what Xana said. None. There's no reason that she would have lied to her dad. We're just hanging out at home. Me and Ethan are just hanging out watching TV or whatever, right? It also doesn't look like, I mean, if she is in fact the one that ordered at 4 a.m., ordered food, then if she was really drunk, wouldn't she have come in and passed out like I believe Madison did? But for sure, I believe the dad's saying that you know, they talked on the phone at midnight and that she and Ethan were at the house watching TV by themselves. I totally believe that. And that draws into question, why in the world would Bethany lie? Why would Bethany say that she saw them at the fraternity house and that she left at 1 o'clock and then they came rolling in at 1:45? Why would she lie? I would absolutely put her on a polygraph. I would put her on a polygraph. So something's not right there. She is the witness that's determining a timeline here. And what are we going to do? What do you feel more comfortable with? Do you feel more comfortable saying, Bethany, it doesn't look like you're telling the truth? Or do you feel more comfortable saying to Xana's dad, we don't believe you? Which one are you more comfortable with? I am much more comfortable asking Bethany to really get her timeline right, because I'm not going to call the dad into question. He would have had to have shown his digital records to prove the phone call. No, they need to know why Bethany lied. That's what they need to know. So, at some point, Dylan wakes up and she hears them, what she thinks is Kaylee playing with the dog, and she's irritated, right? So she's frustrated about the dog. Now, initially I read that and I read into it thinking, she must have heard the dog barking. But later on, there's reference to this barking dog issue, right? So then I sat back and I said, okay, well, what would make you listen and you could hear your family member upstairs? What would you have to hear to make you believe that someone was playing with their dog? And I'm just going to let you guys put in some suggestions. Hey, Shalimar, welcome. Welcome, Lisa Vallejo. How are you? When did the dad say that? Never heard that before. This is actually, I'm actually reading from the arrest affidavit. Let's see. And we'll chew Bethany and Dylan up on the stand. Again, I'm being very, Xana's friend said she always ordered food. That was my big question, Lisa. That was one of my big questions that I had 2 days ago. I would want some kind of verification from DoorDash. Was this common for Xana to order late at night? Because we all know we're all creatures of habit, right? So I would want to know, was this the first time that she had ordered food at 4 a.m. or no, it happened quite a bit. So yeah, I agree that one of her friends would have said, you know, no, she totally did that. Everybody knows she did it. It wasn't a big deal. So thank you for that. Let's see. Hey, Diamond Paul, welcome. Just a thought. Could Bethany have hooked up with a law enforcement officer? Yeah, they had a phone call, Jetta. And she told him that she and Ethan were hanging out at home. And he knew Ethan. They'd been going out. They knew. It wasn't like, oh, I'm here with my boyfriend. She said, no, we're here hanging out today or tonight. 12 o'clock phone call. And, you know, I'm inclined to believe that because the police would have pulled the cell records to verify what he was saying was true. Could Bethany have hooked up with law enforcement? I'm going to tell y'all this again. the door being open at 9 a.m. The door being open at 9 a.m. Kohberger going back at around the same time makes me uncomfortable. I'm afraid to voice it because people will be like, "Oh, you're the devil demon spawned from hell." Okay, there will be people that will be very angry with me if I voice it. Had the same issue in the Chris Watts case. I had some information that I just couldn't voice, even though it was accurate. I just couldn't say it, you know. And so in this particular case, this is one of those things I just can't say it. But, you know, I'll be listening during the trial. I'll be listening closely because I just don't. If you do this whole true crime thing for very long, it becomes clear very quickly that there are very few coincidences when it comes to these violent crimes. Very few. So I think it is interesting that Bethany claims that they were at the party till 1:45, and yet then she says no, they got home at that she got home at 1, and then they got home at 1:45, and then we've got the dad Jeffrey coming up saying no, actually I talked to her on the phone at midnight, and they were hanging out at the house together. So that is interesting, right? Pam says that Ethan had a second autopsy. I don't know anything about the second autopsy. There's the Alex Murdaugh case. Exactly. The electronics got him, right? Got him. If it quacks like a duck and it looks like a duck and it flies like a duck, shoot him. There you go. That's funny, Jetta. Oh, no, I don't think you could say that, Kathy. Not by a long shot. In fact, no, that would be absolutely wrong because we now have defense documents that have come out and said that prosecution, law enforcement has failed to show a link between Kohberger and the victims. And Bethany and Dylan are considered victims. Yeah, Diane, it's a little bit shady. All right, so this car is coming around 329 to 404, and it doesn't seem to be making any attempt to hide itself. Now, if we get into the trial and they come out and they say, no, it had its lights turned off and, you know, going really slowly, all that, then, okay, I'm wrong. But that is not the impression that I get when I read the arrest affidavit. It seems like this car was just looking for someone, right? And then we find out that there was this exchange that happens within the house, and it all happens right after this 4 a.m. DoorDash delivery, okay? So she hears Kaylee playing with the dog, and I said, okay, well, what are some behaviors that people do when they play with the dog? What could you be downstairs? You could be downstairs listening. What would you need to hear to think, oh, okay, Bill's up there playing with one of the dogs, right? Well, I would probably need to hear what sounded like people walking around or even running or jumping. Maybe I could hear a ball bouncing around, or I might just hear like a little bit of laughter, or maybe a couple of words, not a whole sentence, but just kind of moments of excitement, happiness, laughter, you know. So it would not have really sounded like, oh, I bet Bill's throwing the ball and the dog's running. I would just hear it, maybe some bumping around and moving, and then think, oh, that must be them playing, correct? So that's when I think that the murders happened. I think that I okay, so this is going to be hard to understand. I think that he was there before they all got home. And just like somebody said earlier, welcome, Elizabeth Mason. Good. Oh, thank you about my hat. Thank you. I had it a long time. Thank you so much. Hey, welcome, Protected. I don't believe in coincidences. Kopaka, rest in peace. I don't think it was coincidence. Sorry, not sorry. There you go. The car is circling, waiting for food delivery to leave, maybe, or to pick someone up. Obviously there for some reason, right? I mean, look, y'all. They say in the affidavit that the car turns around at unit 52 at 300 Queens Drive, that it turns around there. That means there's a camera at that end of the road, correct? So why wouldn't they know that he parked the car and got out and went in the house? He didn't. They would have seen it. They could see him by the apartments, and they could see the intersection where King and Queen come together. So it says he attempts to park in front of the King Road house, which is technically Kaylee and them's house. That he attempts to park, or maybe to try to turn around in the road. Is that when somebody jumped in the car? So the point, the takeaway from this, I mean, we can speculate and we can guess all day long, but what do we actually know? That's the point. And I think what we actually know, what the affidavit is telling us is, well, we could see the car at the very, very top of the road by the apartment buildings. That's number one. And we could see the car down at the intersection. We could see that. And we saw this car go by 3-4 times, but then it disappears from 404 to what? 420? Well, if you caught it at 420 leaving the area in a high rate of speed, then why didn't you see it after 404 if the car had parked? So there's something kind of strange about that. Also, the way that the direction that the car left going south, and I'm going to talk about that in a minute. But right now I'm talking about this timeline of what we know. And so what we know is we've got this car turning around, going back and forth between these 2 points where there was obviously a camera. Obviously there was. Then they say clearly, well, yeah, we didn't see the car after 404. We don't know where it went. We don't know where it was. From 329 to 404, it's really active in the neighborhood. And we don't know where it went after 404. But we did catch it at some point at 420, leaving at a high rate of speed. So my question is, at 417, this security camera picks up the sounds of what I think was somebody getting picked up, right? And then you see the car leave 3 minutes later. So where was the car? Was it by the King Road house, the Idaho 4's house? Or was it on the other side? You know, the young lady whose suitcase was found outside, remember? Maybe the car that was actually over there by DeCour's house. And so when the killer left the Queen Road house, he went out the sliding glass doors. But then instead of going down to the road where he would have known there would have been cameras, maybe he went right along the edge of that property line, right by that house where he was able to get in, pull that suitcase out. Nobody saw him, right along there, and got picked up right there. So he was not even picked up on Kaylee and Madison and Xana's road. He was picked up over on the boys' side where DeCour and the fraternity boys lived. that would explain some things. And it is a perfect fit for the timeline as well. So here's what I think happened. And this has been bothering me for a couple of days. It's in my head. Here's what I think happened. I think that he got to that house before they got home. And I think one of the ways that he knew whether they were going to be home or not is because he had access to that security camera. I think he did. I think that the friend that he tricked and, you know, all of that was part of the reason why he wanted that camera working, is he needed access to the neighborhood to be able to see what was going on there. Remember, this guy is a narcissistic guy who thinks that he's going to train law enforcement how to use digital evidence for people, you know, trying to evade capture and whatnot. So he's already thinking that he knows more than anybody and he's smarter. If you study these guys, the serial killers or the spree killers or whatnot, you'll find out that they really, really enjoy the buildup. They love the planning stage and getting set up for what they're about to do. And why is that? Because they are having a rich, imaginative life. They're building this up in their mind to like a Hollywood level, you know, thriller kind of movie. And guess who the starring role is? That's right, the killer. They think, you know, it's all going to be about me. It's all going to be about how smart I am. Remember the Zodiac killer? Man, the Zodiac killer, he couldn't be grateful that he got off, because the whole reason of doing it was to feed his ego. Look at how great I am. Look at how smart I am. I'm smarter than the cops for sure. But ha, ha, ha. Now let's get the newspaper involved. I am smarter than all these learned journalists. And now I'm getting them to read my letters to the community at large. And these bozos living out around me, they don't even know who I am. I'm the greatest thing that ever happened to crime. And they build this up in their minds, and they are empowered. They feel powerful. They feel untouchable, invincible. They play these games now with stalking people online and gaining access to cameras, so they feel omniscient. They like to pretend and joke. Like I guarantee you, playing around the friend that he convinced so much that he was trustworthy that she asked him to install her security cameras came after a period of time where he began moving items around in her house. She told the cops this, that he began moving things around in her house, and she didn't know why, right? She didn't know what it was. She didn't know that it was him doing it. She just knew that she would come home and the milk would be on the cabinet. And she'd think, well, why is the milk on the cabinet? I haven't been home all day. I've been at this college working. Why is that? And then she'd think, well, maybe I'm just crazy, you know? And then you don't think anything about it. And then it would be things like, you know, she'd pick up her dry cleaning, but then one of the dresses in the dry cleaning, she can't find it. She thinks she's going to wear it. And then it turns out that it's in the dirty clothes bin. And she's like, well, why is it in the dirty clothes bin? I didn't wear it. I just picked it up from the dry cleaner. So then it became even more ostentatious in her face, where he began moving things from one place to another, like switching them. So at that point, then she knew damn well that this wasn't something she was doing, that something bad was happening. And that was the advent of, hey, can you help me put up some cameras in my house? I don't feel safe. I need a security system. So, you know, Kohberger would not be the first guy to do this. In fact, the guy, I can't think of the guy's name. Let me think a second. Can't think of the guy's name. Anyway, the same thing, that a guy that ultimately killed a family, that he said he started by kind of doing practical jokes, where he would break into houses, and as a practical joke, he would change paintings around and things to scare the people living there. Again, that seems really petty and really goofy and kind of mentally ill to me and you. But if you are the person who's trying to get some kind of narcissistic supply, trying to feel superior to other people, then you would really like that idea that you were instilling fear in people, and you didn't even have to be around to do it. You didn't even have to threaten to kick your, well, you know what? You don't even have to threaten that. So, you know, these guys can do some really strange things. So, you know, was that the point of needing to install security cameras? Was he needing somehow to establish a way to see the neighborhood and get the neighborhood under control? It would be interesting to know at what point did he install the cameras for her, and did that slow down the number of visits that he was making in the middle of the night to the neighborhood? That'd be kind of cool, right? If you got him going there every couple of days, but now he installs a camera in the neighborhood and now he's not going there at all. That would be very interesting to see. So I think that he was in the house when they got home, that he didn't think that Kaylee was going to be there if he did have control of the crime scene like I would expect that he would, but that maybe he thought Kaylee was gone. She wouldn't be back. And that his focus was Maddie, and that he waited patiently for her to get in, and she was very drunk when she got in. And maybe, you know, Kaylee went in, got her down, you know, just get in bed, go to sleep. You're really drunk. Then she goes to her room, messing around with Murphy or whatever. He goes and starts his ritual because the knife sheath was partially under her body, right? I had this weird image in my head of him like straddling her, but almost like talking to her, not in a sexual way, but talking to her, right? But I don't think she was alive. I think he did that quickly, but then he thought he had time to sort of enjoy what he was doing. And I think his goal would have been to scare the cops, that when the cops show up, they realize there's been a murder and a death, and they show up. And then I think he was going to do weird, kind of arrange her strange, weird kind of thing. So if you are to believe Papa Rogers, he was furious that he got interrupted. And so one has to wonder, did Kaylee come back in to check on her? Thinking, is she sick, or did she hear something? She comes back in and checks her. And this is going off of the Papa Rogers post, right? He's angry. He grabs her, does the dirty deed. And then in fury, Papa Rogers says that he kills her while he's holding her up, but then he throws her over Maddie. So they're both in the same bed, but they clearly were not falling asleep like that. There are some things described by Papa Rogers that I'm not going to talk about here, but that definitely the cops would see that. And if it matched what the crime scene looked like, they would know that Papa Rogers is the killer, right? And that's all I'm going to say. So he's very, very angry. There's evidence in that room of his fury. And so he does this. And at this point now he has to get out, right? And one would wonder if that is what happened when he's coming down the stairs. Maybe DoorDash is being delivered at the same time, and he and Xana meet face to face, or she has gone downstairs to get the food and she comes upstairs and they meet, and he just grabs her and just carries her into the room. I'm talking about fast, and just throws her down, and then the fight of their lives happened. But that was all happening at about the same time. That Xana yells, "Someone's here," because she sees him. Whether she's coming, she's going to get her food, or she's sitting on the sofa eating, or she's just put her bag on the cabinet after eating and she's heading back to the bedroom, she notices him and she tries to alert everybody someone's here. And so maybe they're face to face and he's like, no, be quiet. Shh, don't, I'm here to help you. I'm just here to help you. And she would have been like, what the hell? Right? Like, and then he grabbed her and got her to the back. That makes the timeline dramatically different because you've got Madison killed long before Kaylee, and then you have Kaylee killed very quickly, and then as he's trying to get out of the house and he has this face-to-face moment with Xana, then Xana and Ethan, which we know is true, they fought like hell, and once he gets that over, then all he can think about is, I've got to get out those two doors, and I've got a ride that was supposed to be here 30 minutes ago to pick me up. I have got to get out of this house. And I just think he didn't even see Dylan because he had like tunnel vision. He was probably exhausted. His adrenaline was pumping like crazy. And he may have even thought that he was maybe even on the verge of passing out from all the, distress and fear and all that. He ran straight out, went straight down that property line, and they were looking for blood drops and whatnot up in the woods. But did they ever spend time to look at that path between the back porch and down beside the house where the girl had the suitcase? And then maybe the car would have been there, and that's where they would have picked him up. And that last camera picked him up leaving the building. I mean, the neighborhood. So I think that works, y'all. I think that's what happened. I do. Verica Z, welcome. I heard Kaylee's father say her bed was gone from there. She already moved out, so that is why she slept in the same bed. She didn't have her own bed there. I for some reason, I think that was debunked. I think that her stuff was still there. Is that who's talked about that? I've always been curious about the roommates that survived. Where were their cars, or didn't they have any? Well, we know that Dylan drives a big black four-wheel drive black. Is it a Dodge? I don't know. I used to know. No, maybe it's a Ford. Anyway, she's got a great big four-wheel drive, big, truck, black truck. In the police body cam where they're writing I think it's the one where they're writing the tickets to the drunk kids. I think you can see a big four-wheel drive black truck drive by, but come on, there's lots of those trucks there. These are country boys in this area. So, and there's also a white car that drives by and is caught at the same time. Protected is verifying that her bed was there. Thank you, Protected. Yeah, somewhere I heard that was debunked about her moving out, that her stuff was still there. And maybe she had moved out like her personal effects. A lot of these college houses, rental units are furnished, that the price includes basic furnishings, a bed and a desk, and I don't know. Sheila says, I've always thought that he was in the house hiding. I think so. It totally changes the whole flavor of that timeline that is so impossible to believe. It is impossible to believe a 16-minute period of time where 4 people are murdered in a heinous fashion, and he gets out, not a drop of blood anywhere. It defies logic. But it also messes up. It also interferes with motivation, doesn't it? Because you have to ask yourself, why would he be there? Why is he putting his life, his whole future on the line, being caught, going to prison or dying or whatever? Why would he do that just to go into a house and kill 4 people? That's just dumb. Why would he do that? Even from the view of, psychopathic deviants, they do have motivation. So what would be his motivation? To run in, kill 4 people and run out? Where's the titillation, the joy, the planning, all the things that we see from people that do this kind of thing? Where is it? He's not getting any insurance money. There doesn't seem to be a financial kind of payback. So we're almost, from the very beginning of this, I said this feels like serial killer kind of stuff, weird, curious motivations that you and I would naturally jump to. More and more, it looks like that's what it was. And I believe that he was in the house and that he had time with Maddie, and that if we are to believe Papa Rogers, and I am convinced that we are going to find out at trial that Papa Rogers is the killer. And right now, that looks to be Bryan Kohberger. But I think the killer, to be fair, was there in wait, had his time with Madison, and he was furious. He was really enjoying it. And he was looking forward to how the cops were going to be so perplexed. And it was going to be in all the news stations. And he was going to be the greatest killer since Ted Bundy. And I think he was having all these, fantasies. And that Kaylee interrupted him. And he was in fury. And that's when we heard, I thought Kaylee was upstairs playing with her dog. That's the first thing. I heard a commotion. I thought that was Kaylee playing with the dog, right? Well, it couldn't have been, because not long after that, Murphy is barking. In fact, maybe Murphy doesn't start barking until the attack on Kaylee, right? So he can't do anything about it because she's being quiet, just wanted to peek in and check on Maddie, make sure she wasn't throwing up or anything, wanted to peek in. You're not going to let your playful little cockapoo jump around and run and go jump on your sick friend. So you're like, no, Murphy, I'll be right back. Just 1 minute. Be quiet. Shh. Close the door. Tiptoe quietly to try to peek on Madison, and then be confronted with something that would literally maybe make you freeze. And he grabbed her and did what Papa Rogers said. And then at that point, Murphy knows, he can smell the fear that Kaylee would have had, and Murphy starts barking. And when Murphy starts barking, perhaps that's about the same time that the food is being delivered. So Xana is downstairs. She hasn't heard what's been taking place, but then he's trying to get out. She's coming into the living place, and maybe, they're face to face. And he's just like, no, don't make a noise. Shh. It's okay. I'm here to help you. I'm not going to hurt you. Everything's okay. And that's the first lie, right? So the timeline works, y'all. It does. It works. And we can count on the audio recording at 4:17 of the whispers or sound, whimpered sounds, and then a thud. We can count on that, and it's probably something that happened outside. And so maybe it was, where the hell have you been? I know, be quiet. Shh. Let's go. And I think that's what we heard, because that would have been 4:17 that you heard the thud, the talk, the sounds and the thud. And then within 3 minutes, you see the car just flying by on camera. It works. It does work. Mr. Frosty. What an appropriate name as we discuss serial killers. No, I'm kidding. I'm sure you're perfectly delightful, Mr. Frosty. Let's see, Mr. Frosty agrees 90%. I'll take my chances. Allie, welcome, Allie. Hey, Latitude. Good to see you. Vicky Carpenter. Yeah, I don't trust anyone that doesn't shed DNA. We got to shed some DNA. Yeah, like the Morphew family. The Morphew family, they should be called the amazing, genetically shocking, non-DNA shedding family, right? Because Suzanne Morphew had no DNA in her car, just a little bit here and there, sprinkled around for the officers to find. Isn't that right, Barry? Isn't that correct? All right. Murderer. That doesn't give him time to shower. No, it doesn't give him time to shower, but how do we know that it was the right Hyundai Elantra? Maybe it was somebody else's Elantra. We remember, I think it was Big Ups. Big Ups, are you still in here? Didn't Big Ups show us where there was a Hyundai Elantra for sale in Boise in the couple of weeks after the murders? Highly suspicious. And the cop, what about the one that got wrecked that WSU Kim claimed that's the one? Okay, Kim. Okay, completely agree. Also, if all victims show signs of defensive wounds, wouldn't it be a bit longer to act out all that he did? Just seems like a very short time to do that much damage. Well, we don't know that there were defensive wounds on Madison, correct? And I don't think there were defensive wounds on Kaylee, but we know that she had significantly more damaging types of wounds, but that Xana had the most in terms of her hands, and then Ethan had some defensive wounds. Again, this really widens the timeline, Allie, because you've got not Kohberger, the killer. You've got the killer with Madison for a long time. She would have been the first to die, and she would have died before Kaylee by 10, 20, 30, 40 minutes. She could have been dead a long time before Kaylee ever came in to check on her, right? And I think she would have been checking on her because she was very, very intoxicated. So this would have opened up the timeline to allow, time for him to start acting out his sadistic fantasy on Madison, the intended target. That Kaylee then came in and interrupted, and this would have all been 4:15, 10 after 4, 4:15, something like that. And that now the dog has begun barking at this point, and now he's like, holy crap, I'm in trouble here. And so then he, tries to leave, encounters Xana, and she said, someone's here. And she's screaming to try to wake everybody, and he's like, no, shut up, don't say anything. And then she tries to react, and maybe he tried to stab at her or whatever. I do think it would have required that she need to try to turn around and run to Ethan in the room, and he would have just run after her. Again, doesn't that kind of match with what Dylan is claiming that she heard? So I don't know. It does change things a bit, right? Could Papa Rogers have been a cop trying to bring out the murder? I don't know. Why would Xana not hear stuff upstairs when Dylan did? So, Xana was in the sleuthers are going to kill me if I get this wrong. So I got to make sure I get my details right. Okay. So the northeast corner is where Xana's room is, correct? And the southwest corner is where Madison's room is. So if we had, remember, if maybe, well, you don't know why, right? You don't know at what point, but for some reason, Kaylee thinks, hey, I better go check on Madison. Or maybe Kaylee saw, because of where her bedroom is, maybe Kaylee saw the DoorDash drive up. So that would account for Kaylee sees the car, then she thinks, well, let me go check on Madison, see if she ordered something or whatever. And so then she goes in to check at the same time that Xana's going down the stairs to get her food from DoorDash. That would have made it much less likely that Xana would have heard what was going on in the third story. Should have been pretty far away. If he was in wait, that would explain why no alert until Xana and Ethan threw off the getaway plan. More disturbance. Yep. This case is so crazy. You really don't know what to believe anymore, even if you heard it from the horse's mouth. Literally, her dad said her own father didn't know the details. It's a crazy case. And the thing that makes it so crazy is everything happens in such close proximity in such close time, and yet nobody really knows. It's very strange. And it was very strange that Kaylee's dad or Kaylee's family, that they had to wait for so long before the cops ever came and told them what happened. But they've got people contacting them and saying, no, this really happened. Now the initial information was wrong. They thought that Kaylee was shot at a party, a gun. So there, what you would, usually when these tragedies happen, the initial story you get is not accurate. It's sort of people hearing it and then filling in the blank with what they guess. So there's always a little bit of a change, but to make them wait for 6 hours to be notified about their child, that is crazy. Very strange. I don't think Bethany was there. So Elizabeth, question, do you think Bethany came home at 9 a.m.? I wonder, right? I wonder if that door being open at 9 a.m., that really does suggest that somebody wasn't home. Maybe AP. I wondered about that. I had a guy change my locks. Then he started prank calling me, telling me what I had on. Oh my God. And I'm going to tell you something, Protected. Every time the security people come to my house, I think about those kinds of things. And I'm changing the password and, covering up cameras, because we got we have an inside system and an outside system. But I do think about that. It does make me nervous. Annie Ruler, welcome. The GPS technology they used for 2,000 mules and January 6 showed who was where. Definitely available for private party access too. Who was where that night would be answered unless something behind on purpose. Annie, that is, Annie, thank you for saying that, because I had the same thought. Not that, because I don't know about that, but remember with Chad Daybell and Alex Cox, remember they were able to take their phones, their GPS and cell service, and they were able to identify where they were actually standing at any given time. And they look specifically, on what they narrowed down and what they believe the crime scene or what the window of opportunity was, right? Why in the world wouldn't they be able to do that with this situation? Why couldn't they? Now, perhaps the killer's car doesn't have the telematics like Barry Morphew's truck. Maybe they don't have the telematics. He did have his phone off, but my understanding is that even when your phone's off, if it's got battery power, it's still in the background running different systems. So I don't know. It's kind of interesting. And it would be there's another part that's interesting. I tried to say hello to everybody. If you're new here and I haven't said hello, I'm sorry. I don't often, let's see, Old Head Tripping is here. Welcome, Head Tripping. Did I get everybody? I hope I did. I appreciate all you guys. Thank you for coming in to listen. I have another point I'm about to make, but I wanted to check everybody and see if I said hello to everyone. Yep. AP, Martin, Mr. Frosty, Pam Frenchman, Kathy R, Vicky. I think I got them all. Oh, no. Facey Cad. Facey Cad. So Kohberger did all these killings and fought with victims, but did not leave any DNA. Yeah, right. It's okay. I like a little sassy attitude, Facey Cad. I'm good with that. Speaking of old Barry, I'm sure he's so happy to be reunited with his little bobcat and rides into the sunset while being his normal chipmunk snipers. Oh, Allie, that's awesome comment. I heard, let's do a little gossip. I heard that Mr. Morphew opened up a business with the favorite daughter, and it's in her name so that when they arrest him, or if they arrest him again, that they won't be able to confiscate the business and stuff. But apparently they opened up their new business in Idaho, Indiana. Is that right? Yep. Romania, welcome. AJ McCleary, how are you, my friend? Good to see you. Super late, starting at the beginning. Well, when you get to this point, AJ, you're going to hear me say, hey, AJ, what the hell you doing, girl? How's life treating you? All right. If the killer made all the phone calls to throw off the timeline, more to my theory than I'm willing to state. Oh, come on, not there yet. Tell us your theory. Hi, welcome, J Lord. Welcome. Good to see you again. 1:30 p.m. to 4:30 is not a long time. No, 1:30 to 4:30 is not a long time, but it's dramatically longer than 16 minutes, right? A lot longer. In fact, if you ignore Dylan's guess at time, then your timeline opens up from 16 minutes up to 72 minutes. So, Elizabeth Mason. Let's see. Honey K, how you doing? I'm sure there is so much we don't know that is being held close. Absolutely, 100%. I'm sure hoping that is the case anyway. Please, God, don't let this turn out to be prosecution like Linda Stanley. Oh, my God. I don't even want to say the woman's name. Now, if you followed the case with Linda Stanley, she has fantasies regarding Starsky and Hutch. Barry Morphew case, I thought that it was incredibly promising that the judge recently said, no, Barry, you are not walking away from this crime. if law enforcement is able to gather new evidence, i.e., find Suzanne Morthew's remains, we're going back to court, Barry. And it'll be just like you were never in court before. And we can use all of the evidence we want to. And so don't get too comfortable, big guy. Just saying. So I thought that the last hearing that they had was right on point. And can I say, the lovely Iris Eaton was not happy, was she? She was not happy with the judge. She was not happy with the ruling. And she certainly wasn't happy with that little joker who used their name on WebEx. They changed their name to Barry Killed Suzanne. Woo, lit her up like a firecracker. She was upset. Judge, stop everything. Stop, Judge. My client is being slandered. No, Iris. He wasn't slandered, dear. Georgianne Rose, beautiful name. Welcome. Glad you're here. Thank you. All right. Let's see. Meeser Mom. Welcome, Meeser. Good to see you. Papa Rogers is the smoking gun. George Line, I think you're right. I think the cops have the evidence to prove who Papa Rogers is. And if that's the case, turn out the lights. The party's over. All right. He had an accomplice who knew that the phone calls would not be answered. Oh my God, not there yet. Oh my gosh. Did you really just say that in my live? You know what she said? Did y'all hear? She said, if the killer had an accomplice, maybe the accomplice knew the phone calls would not be answered. Well, who would be the one that would know that? Melissa Tapley, welcome. Thank you for listening. I appreciate it. Appreciate you being here. Thank you so much. All right. Texas Lassie, good to see you. So happy I caught a live today. I'm even happier that you caught the live. Thank you for being here. That is crazy. And have you watched any of the live on TV versus Roland, the Border Patrol officer who killed his secret girlfriend and baby? He killed them both and attempted murder on the baby before. That has been a horrifying trial and case and situation. Terrible. Just terrible. And the wife, she wants to believe him. So I love that Iris Eaton said Barry killed. No. Yeah, well, I mean, whoever did that, they did get her to finally admit it, right? Sir, judge, look, there's smut on my computer. It says Barry killed Suzanne. Like, did I just say that? Okay. All right. So the other thing that I was going to say, I kind of lost track because I was acting goofy. I don't remember what else I was going to say. Hold on a second. Let me think. Did I make a note? I don't think I made a note. We did the dog barking. I don't remember. If it pops into my head, I'll make a note and we'll move forward on the next video. Not another. Stand by your man. Yep. Some of them do. They're just such fine specimens. They can't let them go. All right. So what were the points that we made today? Well, a couple. Number one, Miss Bethany. I have not said anything negative about Bethany nor Dylan, and I don't intend to start now. But I also, we're learning more. We've got more verified facts and information. And at this point now, I'm curious why Bethany Why does her statement contradict Xana's father? What would she get from that, trying to say that Xana and Ethan were at the party when she didn't even know? And when Xana's talking to her dad saying, I'm at home, it's midnight, me and Ethan are hanging out. So that is very important to me. I think that is worth it to keep an open mind until we find out more information about that. The second thing is looking specifically at this timeline, that because the arrest affidavit does say clearly that the car turned around in front of apartment number 52 at 500 Queen Road, which I think they meant was King Road, but that it turned around in front of apartment number 52, that tells me they have a camera. There is a camera on that end of the road. And that camera not only could see them turn around at apartment number 52, but that when the car got in front of Idaho 4's house, I don't mean that term disrespectfully. I say that because the 4 names are very long, but that the car tried to park in front of the house of Madison, Kaylee, Xana, and Ethan. They have a camera there. They could see the front of the house. And the killer is going in and out the back. Interesting, correct? Interesting. Did he have foreknowledge? Did he know that somehow they were going to be able to see the front of the house? And having a DoorDash driver arrive at about the same time that you've killed and now you're trying to go out the back door, that's reasonable doubt. No, Judge, I wasn't the only one there. Look, we have evidence that there was a DoorDash driver there at the same time. So why was my client targeted? Judge Jerry? All right. And so the timeline for me looks like he would have arrived early, had time alone with Madison. And if I believe Papa Rogers, then that Kaylee interrupted his fantasy with Madison, who was already deceased, that Kaylee interrupted him. As Papa Rogers described, he reacted in fury. And that is when the dog began to bark. And so now he's trying to get out of the house about the same time that DoorDash is delivering. And he ends up face to face with Kaylee, which is where you get the, no, don't say anything. I'm here to help you. Don't nothing to be worried about. Don't be scared. And she tries to sound the alarm, and then she takes off running to the back. And so he's chasing them, and they have battle royale at that point. And then when he left, perhaps judging by the problem with the car's movements and not being seen on camera, maybe his exit was out the double doors and down the hill along the fence line or the property line, where to the girl's house where somebody got her suitcase out of her car, and he was picked up there away from line of sight to the cameras. He's picked up there. The camera picks up some whispers. Where the hell you been? Let's go. And then slams the door. And then the camera picks them up as they're driving away. And I do think that works. And I just remembered what I wanted to add at the end of this. So let me put my map up. Here's my map. Here's my map. All right, can you guys see that? Yes, you can. Very good. All right. Okay, so now we have the map up. And the reason that I want to show you the map is because I want to talk about the back and forth and the coming and going. All right. So this is technically king and this is supposed to be queen. But for some reason, the address they got on their house is inaccurate. But we all know where King and Queen Street are. This is the apartment. These two buildings right here, these are the apartments that have the yellow and purple paint on them. 500 Queen Street, number 52, right? So there's a camera somewhere picking up here and picking up down here, I think, right? Because the affidavit says they saw him make a 3-point turn here before headed back this direction. And then they also see him try to turn around somewhere here or somewhere here. I have not found where apartment number 52 is. And so any of you guys that live in the area, if you could just let me know, is apartment 52 this one, this one, this one, this one, or perhaps it is this one or here. It's going to be the last one because there's not apartment 53 or 54. 52 is the last apartment. So it's one of these corners, right? So if you live around there, I really would like to know. So somewhere they catch him turning around. Did he turn around here? This is a parking lot right here. So he could have turned around somewhere in this area. Oh, sorry, that keeps coming up. Somewhere around in this area parking lot, or he could have turned around back over here. But we do have a camera down here that caught him do the 3-point turn here. So we've got a camera that's covering down here, and we got a camera somewhere up here around the Queen Road apartments. I'm wondering, so they did see the car try to park. If I do that, let's go to layers. That'd be better. Okay, that makes it easier to tell what we're talking about, doesn't it? So you see the parking lot here. If this is 52 right here, then we have a camera that we can see this area. But if 52 is over here, then we have a camera somewhere here. Or if 52 is right here, then we got a camera right here in the dog leg. Okay, so we don't know, but you can drive straight here into the parking lot here. So 52, it could be anywhere between here, around it, and then the side of the two buildings here. But we don't know where until somebody from Moscow tells us, okay? So we do for sure have a camera down here because they said this is where he does the 3-point turn. And so what I'm saying is if this car, they say the car tried to park in front of the house here, tried to turn around, but apparently failed. So where did it go? Well, I think it went down here and up here where there was no camera. I think it was here waiting. And I think perhaps one of the reasons that this whole suitcase issue happened is because he was casing out the setting. He was trying to figure out what to do. So he could have come straight out, gone down this fence line, this property line, and when he came out right here, picked up, and then as they're speeding out, then this camera down here would have picked them out. Otherwise, they would have seen him here, anywhere here. They would have seen him somewhere between 404 and 420, and they clearly say they didn't pick him up. So whatever camera was looking up here, they weren't up here. That car was not here. Could not have been back here. This is all closed off back here. He can't get out this way. So the car had to have been parked over here waiting to pick him up. Or he parked down here and then went this way to get into the house. But I really do think he came right out those double doors, down the hill, and then right along the fence line in the car. And that's where you get the slamming door, and now they're out. So that's what I think. Now then, what happened after that? Okay, so here's Walenta Drive. Here's Conestoga. And then where is... My eye is just watering and watering. Oh, where is it? Palouse. Where's Palouse? Okay. So when he left, whoops, went the wrong way. Sorry about that. So when he left, go right here. Okay. So this is the house right here. Well, actually, it's right here. Here's the house. This is the Queen Road apartments, the gold and purple apartments here, where Einan Harsh lives. This is where Jack D lived, right here. And I think what happened, my guess, and everybody's got their own guesses, they've all got their own ideas, but this is my guess, that the car was parked down here and picked him up. And he leaves this way, he goes to the left, he's on Walenta, and then he goes down, keeps going down, and for some weird reason gets on Conestoga, and then finally ends up on Palouse. And where's Palouse? Right down here. And Palouse then takes him over to the freeway, right? Now, once he notice, there we go. Okay, so he's down here where this red marker is. This is where the Queen Road apartments are. Okay, where the Kaylee, Madison, and Xana's house is right here. So when he leaves, Kohberger now, not the killer, but Kohberger. Okay, when Kohberger leaves, he leaves going this way. Instead of coming up into Moscow, the shorter route would be up to downtown Moscow and then over to 70 to Pullman. But he goes south down 95. And then he's later picked up. He's seen, was it Genesee, right? Now we do have someone that has a connection to Genesee, who has a connection to Kaylee Goncalves, and I don't have enough attorneys to say who that is. And so the best we can hope for is just to wait and see what happens at trial. But there is a person that has a connection to Genesee, which really shocked me. So that's kind of interesting. But anyway, so they see evidence where the car ends up down this direction, and they're able to figure out that he comes home from the south upward. And so I'm thinking, well, he completely clearly is getting rid of evidence if Kohberger is the killer, and we don't know that he is. He's innocent until proven guilty in a court of law. But it's a very rural area. There are some crevices and cracks in the ground that maybe he could have felt secure throwing away dirty or bloody clothing and that kind of thing. And then finally came up 195, to home. So that's interesting. So when I do my next video, I'm going to use the arrest affidavit, and I'm going to look at the features and the things that are associated with this area that is south of Moscow and Pullman. And I want to look at it from the point of view of if I was carrying a murder weapon and a whole lot of bloody clothes and shoes, what would I want to do with it? How would I like to get rid of it and get myself cleaned up or someone else? And it's possible there's another white car. It's possible that the white car that was picked up on camera in Moscow may have just been used to drive him to his white car and then clean up the car he's in and return it as someone else's rental. And then he gets in a car and in his own car goes home. He's already had time to clean up. His car wouldn't have even an ounce of blood in it if he had been in someone else's car to begin with, even a rental unit. I do think we have to consider this. And I know some of you are going, oh my God, she's gone crazy with wild speculation. Not that I've gone crazy with wild speculation, but that I did exactly what you asked of me. And what you asked of me was to consider that Bryan Kohberger is a criminal mastermind, a genius of the highest order. What would a genius criminologist, how would they approach a murder scene so that they wouldn't get caught and there wouldn't be any type of digital or physical evidence to pin on him? What would he do? All right, so that will be the next one. And we're going to trace this path that he went and see, would there be a reason to believe, number one, maybe he was in someone else's car or he was in a rental car. And number two, was there any place along the way that he might have felt he could safely dispose of all of the evidence? I did too, Georgianne Rose. Yes, and I love your name. It's very pretty. Truth seeker, a genius would not take their phone unless the genius is going to say, hey, would I take my phone? A genius uses two similar cars, one from 2011 and one from what? 2015. Because they were certain about that time range on those cars, weren't they? And then they said, well, it's got to be Kohberger. It has to be him. But the car isn't right. That's right. How about the shower curtain to line the car? He had a month to clean up. Yeah, he had a month to clean up. Welcome, Double V. He had a month to clean up. He does think highly of himself. His communication pattern, one of these people that is quite pedantic and, specious. He talks to people in a way to say, look how intelligent and smart I am, and look how hopelessly, positively stupid you are. And I am humoring you, just trying to explain this very difficult concept to you. And I don't even know why I'm wasting my time. I'm just trying to humor you. He talks down to people like that. He tries to use his intellect to make other people doubt themselves and not to question him. We got lots of people that described that particular personality characteristic. So yeah, he does think a lot of himself, and he would be very excited during the planning of such a crime, with the goal being to reveal that the cops are just so damn stupid. That's I stand by my words there. He is probably loving all this coverage. I don't think he knows about the coverage now, right? I mean, he is grandiose. Yeah. The brain surgeon that didn't know to come in from the rain. I don't think it takes common sense to know the phone is important when you're a PhD. It's just my opinion. Sure, absolutely. But what they will tell you is, sometimes it's not exactly the evidence that is most important. Sometimes the most important thing is what you don't have, things that should be there. Like in the case of Barry Morphew, the murder of Suzanne Morphew, there should have been Barry's DNA in her car. Her children's DNA should have been in her car. So why wasn't it? Billy Shaw, I don't know that we know. I don't know that we know what kind of car Jack Showalter drives or was driving that night. I don't think we know that. Look, I have a problem, not there yet. I do have a problem with those phone calls to Jack DeCour. So there is video that shows Kaylee and Madison talking to Jack D at the corner club, right? We know they were talking. We know they were. And his mom has been on record saying how torn up and sad and depressed he was that they had broken up, and that he was all torn up about that and everything. So knowing men, does it not strike you guys as odd at all that he knows she's in town and he doesn't want to come spend time with her, or for her to come to his house and spend time with him? That just doesn't make sense to me. And he told them, the cops, he told them that he was at home sleeping. And you're like, well, if you left the bar at 1:30, and I'm going to tell you this too. Don't you think that the girls probably left the corner club when Jack D left? Right? That would make sense. And then as soon as they get home, they get upstairs, they're calling him and he's not answering. You think he went that fast from his house to go into sleep? It's just maybe because the girls did go to the grub truck. So, but I don't know. I do find it strange that he didn't answer. It just doesn't seem. Again, we're just talking about expected human behavior. It just seems a little off, little strange that she's going to be leaving and going to Austin. She's calling him in the middle of the night, and he's not even curious. Oh, maybe she's going to change her mind. Maybe she realizes she really does love me. I mean, it just seems odd that he wouldn't. And did he try? Here's another question I'd have. Did he try to call her in the morning? Like when he woke up and saw that they had called, what was it? A total of 8-10 times. Did he call him, or did he make an attempt to call him? And if he didn't, as the police, I would say, well, why didn't you call her back? What's this about? Strange human behavior. You can kind of see that, Pam. You can kind of see their body language. He seemed like he was always there, right? Hi, Jet Set. Welcome. Yes, Sleuthy Goosey. Yeah, she's very detail oriented. Thank you, George Line. That's very kind of you. Thank you. Well, we don't even have any reason to believe. I mean, there would be no reason to even think that Jack D was drunk. I mean, I haven't heard anybody say that, right? So I was just saying, let's say he's like super drunk and then he goes straight home and passes out. But I mean, maybe he wasn't drunk. Kaylee didn't look like she was drunk at all. She looked like she was sober. Yeah, I don't know. I didn't think about him being drunk or not drunk. I just thought it was odd that he wouldn't return her calls knowing that she's leaving. Seems strange to me. There is still controversy if the white Elantra is even the right year. Yeah, Truth Seeker. The car is a problem. And if I was one of the police officers, I would be saying, why are we relying on evidence about the car so much? Why? We can't even narrow down this car to a 5-year range of time. And you want to make the case that it is Bryan Kohberger's car because he doesn't have a license plate on the front of it. None of the cars do. No, that the car is a problem. Car's problem. Mark my word. Car is going to be used to introduce reasonable doubt. Watch. Please explain who's the 3 unidentified male DNA belongs to. Okay, so Margaret Wagner, welcome. Good to have you. I did a lot of thinking about the DNA. Number one, that house had thousands, hundreds of people, let's say hundreds, to keep from being bombastic. The house had hundreds of people there just the weekend before. Big party, you saw the number of people coming and going in that house. So number one, there's going to be tons of male DNA there. And unless you have done, 23andMe and you've checked the appropriate boxes, or you've been arrested for whatever, convicted, your DNA is not going to be in that database. And other people will say, like Gray Hughes will say, yeah, but they can do, genealogical mapping, and sure they can, but nobody in my family's ever been arrested. Nobody in my family has gone to prison. So there's still lots of families that those connections are just not in the database. There's a lot of people that don't want their DNA in the database, and so they will not give approval for it to be listed. So it's still not, a perfect science. Well, it's a good science, but it's not a done deal in terms of tracking down different people's family DNA related to crimes. So, so that's number one, that there's going to be a lot of DNA in that house. And a great majority of it will not trigger a response in the CODIS system. Number two, so what do you do if you're law enforcement? You know that this was a really popular house and a lot of popular kids and whatnot. So what do you do when you're dealing with a potential 10,000 people sample? You got to figure out some way to limit your sample. And so that would be done conceivably, I suppose, by fingernail clippings, swabs from the skin, from the bodies of the victims, maybe even looking for sources of DNA on the sheets or the blankets, the clothing, that kind of thing. So I do think that's what they did. I do think the arrest affidavit says that they took nail clippings. But I think they probably, took samples from the face and the hands and things like that, as well as pillow, maybe bottom sheet. It's still a long shot because these are young people and they're, around each other. You have Madison and Kaylee that spent several hours at the corner club, and they're around a lot of people. And we saw, just from the Grubhub video, we saw Madison hug a young man that was there and saw her, right? We also saw her kind of hugging up to Jack Showalter. And I'm going to go on record here. I think Jack Showalter is a hero in this story. I think he was legitimately doing the right thing. He had an intoxicated girl, one of his friends, and her roommate. And he was staying with them to make sure that they didn't run across a creepo who would try to take advantage of them. So I think he proved himself to be a good guy, and so that's where I stand on Showalter. But I think you've got Showalter. Maddie was hugging on Showalter, and she also hugged the unnamed guy or was that Adam at the grub truck? I don't know who the guy was that she hugged. She also kind of brushed against Joe Vidot or Vidot, however he pronounces his name. They also had their hands, if you watch how they were standing waiting on their food or ordering, they had their hands on the bar where they were ordering or picking their food up. They could have picked up some transfer DNA there. They could have picked up transfer DNA in the back of their car ride home. So yeah, of course you have to check, especially the nail clippings. For sure, if there was somebody else's male DNA underneath their fingernails, that's huge. Maybe around their mouth, their face, that would be a big deal. So yeah, I hope did that answer your question, Marguerite? I'm not surprised that they found some unidentified DNA, but I mean, I would think there would be even more. So I think they really restricted where they were searching for DNA to things that would suggest, no, there shouldn't be male DNA on that part of her body. I'll put it that way. That's probably a good way to put it. Lucy Goosey is a YouTube creator, and she's really, really detail oriented, and she's been covering this case. She's developed an amazing timeline. Yeah, that's all. Yeah, Jack D. I'm bothered that he didn't pick up the phone calls. That's strange to me. And we also know at Jack D's house, there's a white car very often there that looks like a Elantra. I don't think it is, but they look alike. Unless there are telematics on the Elantra, right? Sleuthy Goosey thinks law enforcement are involved along with land. I think Bryan is the guy. They got him. I think they got it's him, in my opinion. I think it's more likely than not that it is Bryan Kohberger. And I think that they have announced that they are going for the death penalty. And with a death penalty case, that is the highest standard. They have good evidence. They just haven't yet revealed their hand. They only remember, they only have to get a standard of more likely than not. So that's a 50-50 guess, or technically 51-49 guess. That's all the grand jury had to do. The prosecution gave them just enough information that got the grand jury to say, yeah, more likely than not, this is the guy that did it. This is good evidence. Yeah, I can deal with this. The higher standard, which is beyond a reasonable doubt, that is reserved for trial, correct? For a jury. And that is the big one. But then when you're going to have death penalty, it's even bigger than beyond a reasonable doubt. Anything that is undetermined automatically goes in support of the defendant in the case of the death penalty, of a death penalty case. So the fact that they said, no, we're totally going for death penalty, that tells you what you need to know about what evidence they have that they're holding back. And I'll tell you another thing that I haven't heard anybody say, but when you've got a defense, a case like this, you got a defense whose primary objective is to put the law enforcement on trial. When your only defense of your client is to try to prove that law enforcement was in on it, you've lost your case. That you've all but admitted, if your defense is we're going to put law enforcement on trial, then you don't have much of a case. It's my opinion only. And lots of people out there have lots of different opinions. All right. No DNA in the car, the apartment, or the office seems impossible if a person actually did it. True. I agree. So they do have telematics, Big Ups. So Big Up says this car has telematics. Voice for the voiceless. I can't think of anything better to do than to work on parade float signs. Thank you for choosing me to listen to. I appreciate it. Thank you. And I'm sure that you'll take pictures of the float and then put it up so we can see. I'm sure it'd be beautiful. There better be his and his dad's DNA in the car or there's something up. Well, yeah, so we don't even know that, do we, Jetta? Just like Barry Morphew. Like I said, the magical, mystical DNA marvel of family that doesn't leave DNA behind. Was Brian's DNA found in the car? Was his dad's DNA found in the car? What about his mom and his sister? Because if it wasn't, somebody did some cleaning. Jet Set, do you have Twitter? If you'll go to Twitter and you'll put into the search bar Sleuthy Goosey Kohberger timeline, it'll pop up. I think Jack Showalter was doing the right thing. Yep. I hope I don't have to eat those words, but I think he was. What I can't get on my mind, I have never seen the ambulance show up to get the bodies, and you see the ambulance on other cases on the news. So Sandy Hook, that was, terrible case. There was a lot made of why didn't we get any pictures of them bringing the children out of the school, right? And it turned out that they waited until cover of darkness, and they intentionally figured out a way to bring them out and put them into the medical tent without the helicopters being able to see. So, this case was sensationalized the minute that the first reporter came out and said, we have 4 college kids slaughtered in the middle of the night right across the street from the college campus. At that moment, it was a sensational story, and people were watching. So, they had to have gotten them out, but we don't know when. And I'm sure that they did it in a way, like I said, maybe it was the middle of the night, that they did it. That is really odd about Jack and the phone calls, her leaving town and him not answering. That is one of the things in this case that stays on my mind. Jack DeCour, no one is pointing fingers and saying you did anything. But it is not typical behavior given the set of circumstances. It is very strange that he did not answer the phone. It's very, very strange. Once Upon a Crime Time, welcome. What do you think of Bryan going out of his way and being 1 block away from Kopaka's apartment both ways? Look, I'm not going to lie. I think Brett Kopaka is interesting. There are people that will say that it's wrong to try to insert Brett Kopaka into this investigation. But the one thing that I would say says, no, you're really making a mistake not to at least keep an open mind where he's concerned, is not the drive by his house, and all that, because these are not really big cities. That it could have just happened, right? But there's something else that really means, to me, it stands out as a red flag, and we should consider the implications or possibility. And that is that when Bryan Kohberger and his dad were stopped by the police, what did they talk about? What did the dad automatically bring up? And you can see Bryan going, no, Dad. No, you don't know what you're talking about. No, we don't know that, Dad. Dad, we don't know that. He doesn't know what he's talking about. You could see the discomfort in Bryan Kohberger's body language when his dad started talking about Kopaka. So that is the reason that I think it is appropriate to at least keep an open mind and consider the possibility that there could have been something to it. With just an open mind doesn't mean that you have to make it all fit. But if you run across some additional information, then you can say, yeah, actually that is actually very interesting. Like if we were to learn that Brett Kopaka had a white Elantra, that would give you a reason to sort of go, wait a minute, that's weird. So yeah. So Once Upon a Crime Time, I think I have an open mind related to Kopaka, just because of the way that Bryan reacted and the fact that his dad immediately brings it up the minute they're stopped. It was bizarre. It was just crazy. Anger, apparently, Pam. Yeah, I'm very excited. Once Upon a Crime Time decided to say hello. Thank you for being here. Appreciate it. And thank you for coming back. Truly, I thank you for coming back. I have decided that the YouTube algorithm has put me on the no-fly zone list. I'm definitely on the no-fly list. They don't even know I'm here. So if you don't mind, if you'd hit the subscribe button, you never have to come back again, but just to see one extra subscriber would make my heart soar with joy. So when both sides aren't presented, I don't think the grand jury is that solid. But what do they say? They say that you can indict a ham sandwich, right? Because the standard is so low. But why in the heck or hell why didn't they indict Melanie Pawlowski? That to me is crazy. Or Melanie Gibb I don't know. Can't tell you. Parked car, jogged home, then jogged back next morning to get car. Parked car. You think he jogged 10 or 15 miles? I don't think so. Parked car. No, he lives too far away. He lives way too far away. Are you talking about Jack D from the Corner Club? Big ups. You are so right. This investigation and this prosecution is costing so much money. And it's money that this little town doesn't have. So why would the prosecution move forward with this if they don't think that they can't win? They do not want to look like, the laughing. They don't want to look like Linda Stanley. Is that okay for me to say, Martin? Martin can tell me if that's okay for me to say. They don't want to be the second Linda Stanley. No. It has been under public pressure to go with the death penalty. That's an interesting issue, because word is, if we're to believe rumor, word is that Ethan Chapin's family was not interested in the death penalty. And then I think Xana Kernodle's mom did not want the death penalty, if I remember correctly. So that would leave Madison's family and Kaylee's family wanting it. But, and here's, I think, what we don't always, accept. The prosecutors have full reign to do what they want to do in terms of charging. And you would hope that they would take into account the desire of the victims' families, but they don't have to do that. So even though there may be public pressure for that, Truth Seeker, what do you think, how do you look at it that they would give more that they would be more inclined to do what the Goncalves family wants as opposed to what the Chapin family wants? What do you think would be the tipping point for the prosecutor? And maybe it is just that the visuals, right? The optics of the situation, maybe. But look, the Parkland shooter, Nicholas Cruz, if ever there was a case, a reason to do a death penalty, that was the case. I mean, not only did he slaughter just dozens of people and maimed dozens of people, but he went back and he shot victims, and then he went away, and then he came back and shot them again, and then went away and yelled at them. And no, the death penalty was absolutely warranted. But even then, in a bright red conservative state like Florida, they still couldn't get the death penalty. I think that, and I'm from Texas. We actually have a fast lane for death penalty cases. So it's not, people don't shrink back in horror in Texas, when there's death penalty. But I'm one of those people. I think that we're reaching a period of time in our culture, in our society, where people just have lost that desire, I guess, for revenge, that need to go that much further. But on the other side of it, I mean, Jodi Arias is being housed in Arizona in a prison that doesn't have air conditioning. If you really want someone to suffer and pay their dues for the crimes they committed, don't give them the death penalty. Make them live like Jodi Arias lives. So. Ann Taylor has put an officer on trial before, and she won the case. No DNA at the time, but he had 6 weeks to clean everything. That is a huge consideration, coffee and conversation. 6 weeks is a long time to clean and to clean and to clean. And oh yeah, let's clean some more. It's a long time. It's a long time to get rid of clothes and then go replace them with all new clothes. It's a long time. It's a long time to get rid of toothbrushes and buy new toothbrushes. And it's a long time to get new shoes. And then the minute you find out that there may be a footprint of a Vans, then you got to throw all your Vans away, right? And get only Nikes or whatever. So 6 weeks, the defendant can bring up all of these issues, but then the prosecution is just going to turn around and go, hey, you know what? We know there's no DNA, but when we arrested him, he was in the process of separating things and throwing his stuff in the trash of the neighbors. And we have video of him washing out the inside of his car with bleach. So 6 weeks is plenty of time to clean up evidence. And he's a criminology student. So he knows what we're looking for. He knows how to cover his tracks and how to clean up. That's what they're going to say, Truth Seeker. They don't have to stop Ann Taylor from bringing these issues up because they're very real issues. But what they're going to do is they're going to cast serious doubt on them as being indicative of crime. They're just going to say, no, he did it. He just cleaned it up. Yeah, Dylan and Bethany won't have any choice. If they get subpoenaed, they have to testify, even if it's as a hostile witness. They can still be questioned. And again, I think Bethany's got a problem. I think Bethany's issues are a bigger problem than Dylan's. I think the fact that her testimony or her statement is in direct opposition to the father of one of the victims. That's going to be a big problem for Bethany. Oh, that's going to be great. Voice for the voiceless. Double V says, does lack of DNA on defense doc equate to none? No. Because I think the way that it's worded on that document is that there is no DNA connecting the murder victims to the car or the office. Isn't that right? Isn't that the way it says it? So it doesn't mean they didn't pick up any DNA, but that will be what the prosecutor then will ask. The prosecutor will say, well, we know you didn't find Xana's DNA or Ethan or, Kaylee, but did you find Brian's dad's DNA? Or did you find the worker, the PhD student that he teaches with and shares the office with? You should find her DNA. That should be there. Yep. You don't have to see it to clean it. You just get you some bleach and water and wipe everything down, just like during COVID when you didn't want to get sick with COVID. Just wipe everything down. This has been the longest live, hasn't it? Covered up well in winter, gloves, mask, that would equate to very little DNA. I've posted 4 different times and it doesn't show up. What did you post once upon a crime time? I don't see you being blocked once upon a crime time. I can see your comments. Sweet Magnolia Bell. I think they're asking for the persons who are being questioned to answer what they may know, not what they have heard. Oh, you're at the beginning of the video. Yes, I was corrected. My perspective was different. And then you find people said, no, got to think of it this way. And I was like, of course, you're right. So sorry about that. Bryan trips on his ego fairly often, and it'll be how he's caught. Very well said. I would agree with that. Stricter penalties for less crime incentive, not playing seesaw with lawyers and years in appeal, eye for an eye, swift and just punishment. Welcome, Caledonia. How are you? Hey, see my tutu. Wonder if any of his neighbors saw him cleaning. Well, the cops saw him cleaning. The police saw him in Pennsylvania. You can use baking soda and vinegar. We learned that during COVID. Oh my God, I went totally crazy. During COVID, I was even like, I would order and get my groceries delivered, and then I would lay them out in the sun. Obviously not ice cream, but stuff that wouldn't get ruined. I'd lay out in the sun for a little while and then turn it over and let the other side get sun. And then when I brought it all in, then I would, get my cleaning stuff and wipe it all down and put it in the refrigerator or wherever, cabinet or whatever. Lost my mind. Oh, Hippiporium. I like the name. I respectfully disagree, as you may. This is a time in our lives where everything is being fought by revenge and retribution. It fuels the hate. Even 45 can say it out in the open. What? I don't understand. I got to read it again. I respectfully disagree. This is a time in our lives where everything is being fought by revenge and retribution. It fuels the hate. Even 45 can say it out in the open. What do you mean? What you talking about, Lewis? I don't understand, but you do have a damn fine name, Hippiporium. I think I want to open a business with your name. Please clarify, Hippiporium. I see now. Why are you blocking my stuff? Mods, are we blocking? I haven't seen anything come up. Usually you can see it come up where they choose to block. I haven't seen anything get blocked. I can see both sides. No matter what, he can't win with this type of thinking. Yeah, I don't see anybody blocking either, Hybrid. The very first mistake is that if the killer thinks that he's smarter than law enforcement. Yep. Young people don't always tell their parents the truth about where they are. Dad and Bethany could both be telling the truth. How? I don't think so. Not in this case. Because she says that they were at the house at midnight, and Bethany says that they were at the party. So I don't know how one of them how they can both be right, can they? I've posted 4 different times and it doesn't show up. Well, we're obviously getting your posts now. So if you want to post it again, then go ahead and I'll look for it right now. Keywords get filtered out. Oh, okay. Yeah, thank you, Hybrid. Once Upon a Crime. Keywords get filtered out before they ever get here. So if you are putting in certain words, YouTube's already kicking it out. So don't say anything ugly and don't use other creators' names. When your dad tries to make friends for you at 27 or 28, what is that? I don't know what that means, Elizabeth. I didn't think there were any deleted comments. Thank you, Hybrid. I didn't see them. Weird. Thank you, Latitude. I'm glad you're here. Thank you. Yes, no links. I've got links blocked on my channel. Yeah, I'm sorry that happened. I know it's frustrating. I meant back in Washington State. Mods, do you see the posts with the links? Can you post them? I'm wondering how this works. Bryan would have access to luminol. Oh, that's an interesting thought, Martin. If he had access to luminol, then he himself could be spraying down everything and finding every little drop of blood, right? That is a very interesting thought, Martin. That's why it's your job to be Martin Smallwood, because you think all the great thoughts. Hippie Emporium is a cool person with an even cooler name. I love the name. If you post too quick, it won't post. Yeah, it's not going to take links. My basement is flooded. Main streets have become streams. In Chicago, really? Why haven't I heard about this? I've heard about France. France is in deep trouble, people. I don't know if you guys have been watching that. Let's look up Chicago, see what in the hell is happening in Chicago. Y'all are having the great flood of Chicago. Now y'all had a fire and a flood. Let's see. This says the Great Chicago Flood happened April 13th, 1992. Not the right one, is it? There was also a great flood in 1849. Doesn't say anything about a great flood in 2023. How an epic error caused flooding in Chicago. Are you sure? Are you a time traveler? Do you think you might be a time traveler? Let's check the weather station, windy.com. See if there's a hurricane in Illinois. Stop that. Lordy. My computer's going crazy. Where is Illinois? No, it doesn't look. Are y'all having rain? It doesn't look like rain. Oh, you got lots of thunderstorms, don't you? The great news is that the rain's gone. It doesn't look like y'all are going to be dealing with any more rain, but it does look like you've gotten a lot. Well, I'm sorry to hear that you guys are struggling. Have you a boat? Myself. The Daily Evergreen Campus History. The Daily Evergreen Campus History. Let me look that up. Google. Daily Evergreen Campus History. I have a little bit of, y'all, the people that come to my channel all the time, I have rheumatoid arthritis and it's in my eyes. And so my left eye is having a little bit of trouble today. It's what's kind of swollen, very watery. So this is related to WSU. The Student Voice is the Daily Evergreen is the newspaper there. Okay, so what should I know about this? What do you want me to know? About campus history? I don't think you say bad things once upon a crime. Oh, it's flooding by the lake in Illinois. Yeah. Folks, install video cameras at your places. Yeah, absolutely. We have video cameras all the way to the road, but then also all the way out the pier, because apparently people come up in boats and that's how they get access to your house. If you did use luminol, they can also detect luminol during testing. There you go, Truth Seeker. Wonderful. Caddy. My sister lives in Chicago, and yes, it's flooding from all the rain. Wow. Well, like I said, the great news is there's a little thunderstorm above Chicago right now, but then everything's clear behind it, so it may be just about over. Hey, Martian Planet, how are you today? It's just hot, isn't it? It's just crazy how hot it is. 15 days of rain. Ugh. See, my tutu is 2 hours south of Chicago. Elizabeth Mason is listening, and she is wallpapering her house. Elizabeth, I've been thinking about wallpapering, but I would just use the peelable wallpaper. The wall back behind me, I want to put those big flowers. That's what I want to do. But I think it would be too busy. I may just leave it colored. I may just keep on with my pretty colors. You can turn the notifications off, see my tutu. All right. Ooh, we have been here for 3 hours, people. You guys are like special forces people. You're amazing. So thank you for spending time. I appreciate it. And can I just draw attention to something? We had people in here that think that Kohberger is not the guy and that the evidence does not support Kohberger being the guy. And we had people in here that are convinced that Kohberger is the guy. And do you notice that no one got nasty or mean to each other? And it made a much better conversation, made it a lot more interesting. It definitely changes things when you consider multiple sides of the same problem. You require people having opposing ideas. It's called a conversation, and it's important. Echo chambers are not very good for developing strong ideas. Echo chambers are very good for making you feel like you're smart, but it's not really very good if what you're interested in is good ideas. So thank y'all. For everybody was really polite and interesting, and I am appreciative. So thank you. All right. Amen, Shalimar. Okay. But one of them or all three could be the killer. Sure. Absolutely. No, I agree with you. And I said to you, because the crime scene was so active with young people, right? It was very, very social environment. Then they would have been looking for DNA, but they would have to restrict their sample. They would have to be more discerning about, where are we going to collect the evidence from, instead of just like vacuum up the floor and then looking to see in the vacuum dust what they had. And in this case, because of the way that the arrest affidavit is written, I believe that they used fingernail clippings. Possibly they took swabs around the face and the mouth, possibly other parts of the body that wouldn't typically be touched by other people. Hands are going to pick up transfer DNA. Arms and clothing can just brush up against a table and pick up transfer DNA. So I do think they collected DNA, but I think they were careful about taking it from areas of your body that you normally wouldn't get the DNA from. And they came up with 3 unidentified. One, I'm right off the bat ruling out one of them, and here's why. One of the samples came from a black, like snow glove, a winter glove that was found outside beside the road, but near to a trash can. And it was actually found days later, and it was pointed out by Chris McDonough from the interview room. So I'm inclined not to even to consider that one. Let's face it, it's winter. It's cold. Kids are running all over the place, being goofy. It was found near to a road and beside a trash can. It's probably not related, would be my bet. So the OJ glove, right, Martin? We are thinking the like thoughts. All right. The investigation has been questionable in many areas. Absolutely. Agree with you. 100% agree, Truth Seeker. Yep. All right. Okay. We have been at this for 3 hours and 17 minutes. And if I don't get up and walk around, I'm going to get a clot. Y'all would be sad to know I got a clot, right? All right. I got to go. Got to get my blood pumping. And I hope you guys, first of all, thank you for sticking around and listening to this whole thing, because we talked about a lot. I appreciate it. I am beyond shamelessly pandering for subscribers. So I am pleading with you, please subscribe if you haven't already. And a thumbs up might wake up the algorithm to go, oh, wait, there's that lady. I remember her. So you don't ever have to come back again if you don't want to, but at least hit the little subscribe button and I will be eternally grateful. All right. But I hope you do come back. I hope you will come back and join us. All right. Okay. I think that's all I got to say. Y'all have a wonderful evening. And thank you for everybody being so polite to one another. It was a really, really, really interesting conversation. So thank you. All right. See you later.